This is Every Widow Thing.
Before we get started, can I say something?
No.
It's my turn. It's my turn.
Yes.
I just want to give a shout out to my dear friend, Joan, and my friend, Amy. Joan did our logo, and Amy
amazing
took
Every
our
Widow Thing logo.
beautiful photos that make us look good.
Yay.
So,
Yes,
Thank you, Joan and
and
Amy.
Amy. It's great to have friends with talents, which I guess everyone has a talent, but sometimes you don't really want them to use it on you. Photos and logos, those are really
where you're going
awesome.
with that.
I really
Yeah,
don't
I'm
know.
not sure.
Listen, I am jet lagged because I just took a whirlwind trip with the kids, starting to be summertime. So we thought it might be fun to share some travel stories with you, but also let you know what it looks like now that you're just one parent. It can be very difficult when you're outnumbered.
And
for
sometimes
sure.
if you have an only, you're having to be the kid.
That's right.
You're having to be their siblings.
That's
so
right.
You have to entertain.
It's exhausting. Now it's
So-
easy. They just game and they ignore you. So
Well, mine weren't gaming, but they were hurting my feelings a lot on this trip. And I think that's hard when you don't have, if I don't have my partner with me to look at the kids and go, don't speak to your mother that way. You're having to be your own advocate. And it's hard, especially I think as moms. I have a lot of mom guilt.
I do too.
I let things go that should not be let go.
We all
I think we
struggle
have
with
to.
that.
I think part of it is exhaustion. 3 hours in and my kid's still gaming because I'm too tired to do anything else.
Exactly.
So, when you're always having to be on. So
We just took a trip to Europe. We did London, where my husband and I used to live, and that was fun, but emotional because I haven't been back to that place since we left.
did you go back to some of the old haunts? where you
Yeah,
guys met?
I took the kid because the plan was always to go back over there with them and show them where we used to live and the neighborhood and
Favorite pub. And
Yeah, exactly. I did that, and
They
Hunter's
remembered
brother-
you.
Yeah, they were like, Whitney.
Oh my God, she's back.
My English accent came back. My kids were like, why are you talking like that? I go, I don't know. But one of the things that I was going to share with you guys is everybody's on edge. I don't know about you guys, but I get trip anxiety. So we're at the Louvre and I'm on edge. The kids are getting worked up because the tickets aren't going through the way that they should. And there's a line getting backed up now because we're not going through the styles. And I'm like, just go, go. And one of my kids blows up and uses some choice words.
They learn those.
I don't fucking know. And I can be difficult to travel with because I have expectations of how perfect I want the trip to be. And then when things go awry, I kind of am not my best self.
Trip
I know.
expectation. Those need to be lowered when you're traveling by yourself with children. They need to be just way,
It's hard.
low.
It took me a few years, but I finally leaned into that. But in the beginning, I wanted everything to look like it would if Oliver were alive
Yes.
because it made me feel better on some
Yeah.
level.
For me, I'm like, oh, I want to create these amazing memories. And also, a lot of us have seniors that are leaving. And so you're thinking, this is our last opportunity to have this amazing family moment.
I think it was all about making up for the loss, and I'm still doing that. But it's like, how can I make up for it? How can I make it better? Let's take a great trip. Let's just make sure they're still having the life that they would have had, kind of like Lacey was saying. And that has been a real struggle and continues to be a struggle because you really do have to reframe your expectations.
I think what's hard about that is I did that or am doing that. And now I feel like I'm backtracking because I was like, whatever you want, wherever you want to go, whatever you want to do.
Now you want to set some boundaries.
Or
Now-
ice creams later.
Yeah. I feel like I'm backtracking and like trying to reel it in a little bit.
Because I think we have kids that are turning into young adults. And suddenly you're like, oh, we might have missed a value or two in there when we were sort of overindulging as an overcompensating tactic.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you're like, well, I don't want to raise a brat. I think we've all had what you were saying. I've certainly traveled with my kids where we're literally in the most exquisite location they can go up and get whatever they want to eat. And somebody seems ungrateful or has a meltdown or takes it out on a sibling.
Cusses you out in the Louvre.
And as a mom, you're just like, how is this possible that you're having a hard time in this amazing environment, But it really does just come down to like whenever those feelings creep in, we as the single mom are the only person that they can take it out on.
Well, I think it's okay to hold your ground like you did, Whitney. I mean, you have to stand up to them. They can't just run over you.
Oh, yeah. But I
Ryder
felt
made me-
guilty the rest of the day. He missed seeing the Mona Lisa because he got mad and walked out. And then
Well, that's on him.
I said those things to myself.
Google
By the
it. He
way-
can see it on the computer.
Yeah.
By the way, I bet a lot of people who have 2-parent households will say that happens to them too.
That's true. And that is
So-
something that I feel like my brain will do and make it about being a widow. And really, it's just parenting.
It's just parenting
Or just
teenagers.
normal.
It's hard. But Ryder told me something on our last vacation. I was trying, like how we were all talking about, I was trying to make it perfect because it's the last one before he goes to college. And there was just so much pressure on me. So we go and he said, you know what I wish? I wish you would just have fun. Like stop trying to make it perfect. He could feel it. And I was like, oh. So I did. I stayed out all night and danced at this dance party in the middle of the street and Telluride.
Was he with you?
No,
Oh,
he
that's
left
great.
at like 11 o'clock and I stayed out. And I came home. It must have been like 2. I don't know. I stayed out with some friends and he was like, wow, look at you. And that's when it got better.
Yeah.
Because I think all those years, I think he really wished I wasn't stressed. All that time I'm trying to make everything perfect. He was like, I wish you had just chilled.
It kind of reminds me of, I saw a cat meme the other day and it was like, I bought these expensive cat toys, but a paper towel fell on the floor. And that's what he's interested in, right?
Yeah.
The kids, we think they have to have these amazing monumental memories. And really, they're just happy with the paper towel on the floor,
Yeah.
I don't know about that. But
Well, I'm going to try
No.
it out. No, but you know what I'm saying?
I get it.
The expectations, just like you said, I finally had to give myself a talking to because it was ruining the trip for me. I was getting my feelings hurt because the kids want to go. This is a moment of freedom. What would I like to do? I wish there had been a dance party in the middle of the street, but I had a glass of wine at the bar and relaxed and hung out. And
That's a good point that comes up. I know when I lost my husband and travel like really looked different, I did seek out traveling with other families and friends because you do want to be able to go have a drink at the bar or, go out to something, leave the kids in the hotel room. They're not going anywhere. They're going to be safe and have a good time. You want to have like other adults around. I mean, it's not fun to just always be parenting on a trip. It's your vacation too. And I had to kind of like what Lacey just did in Telluride. I had some moments where I was kind of like, hey, it's my vacation too.
Right.
I need to have a break and go have some fun so that I can show up tomorrow and carry on with the trip. But it is kind of like I always kind of had to seek out like, well, who wants to go to the mountains with me or who wants to go to the beach with me? And is there another family that my kids like their kids? And
right.
travel just started to look more like that. Whereas before it was more just like our immediate family. I definitely didn't, want to be alone on a lot of those trips.
And it's also hard, like, if your kid's little, when Ryder was 6, like, who could babysit him? Like, I can't get a break. If I go alone, which most of them, we had quite a few that were with friends. This one couple friend, we did quite a few with them. But the times we did it alone, I was like, well, I guess I won't be getting a break. And you can't drag your kid to the bar. So it's
Right.
like,
I've
that's
definitely
not
done
possible.
the, out on the hotel balcony, just me, myself, and the bottle of wine. And,
hey,
they're watching
bathtub.
They're watching a cartoon or whatever, or they're asleep. And I'm just kind of out on the balcony, like, here I am with my bottle of wine. I didn't drink the whole thing.
Well, then I'm disappointed in you.
We did vacations with my friend Joan, my best friend, that she has 2 boys the same age as my
nice.
youngest. And we traveled with them. And then we traveled with my sister and her family, which my nephews are around the same age as my boys. And we've done that all the time. I mean, we still do that.
Who did you go to Cabo with right after your husband died? I think, was
That
it
was with
Christmas?
Joan
Was her? Okay.
and her family.
That's
yeah.
funny.
We went to
Nice.
Remember
Cabo
that trip?
too.
I remember you going to Cabo.
Yeah.
That's
It
so
was, it was
funny.
nice to,
It's a great
I mean, I was
escape
kind of
place.
escaping, but it was good to have best friends. And then her boys are like cousins to my boys.
That
so.
works out really nicely. And you hang out with her husband too, and it's easy to do that.
Yeah.
Some husbands, it's awkward.
Right. You really
I had
feel
a
like
few
third
friends
wheel.
where the husbands were just so cool about it.
And that's the same with Julie and Jeff, my sister and brother-in-law, because Toby was very close to her husband. So it was hard for them, too, when we would travel together.
That's great. And that's something that people don't really think about as the years go by. Like in the beginning, everyone is thinking about how they can help and what they can do. But as time goes by, nobody's necessarily considering, oh, let's invite Whitney and her crew to go with us. Because I don't know about you guys, but I get overwhelmed with the planning of things.
Absolutely.
So it would just be so amazing to just tag along and not have to think about anything, really.
I always used to look at Keira and think how amazing she is. Like 3 kids, she would do these amazing trips. And I was like, I'm exhausted just thinking about the travel to get myself over there, let alone that she would have all these things planned. And I was like, she's got more energy than I have. That's just
I don't even think I have that energy anymore. I had it back then. Now I just want to go sit on a beach and do absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, for me, in nature is kind of when I felt him. I think maybe some of it was just fewer distractions and just having that ability to kind of think clearly and have some quiet time. And
it's
so
nice now to have that, but early on I didn't like it. I wanted things to be just busy because quiet was like, oh God, I'm doing that at home.
Sure.
Yeah.
But coming home and nobody's there, it's hard.
I have a question that might be helpful to others. I had a real issue with going back to places where I'd been.
Yeah,
where I've been with Frank. That really I found very hard for a while. I feel like I'm starting to do that more now. So all of the trips, all the things that I started doing with my kids were just completely different things, like places that I had not been. We had not been as a family because I tried it one year on his birthday. We gathered in Cape May, New Jersey, which was a place that we always went with the kids. And his family came, his sister and her kids and his parents, and we celebrated the birthday. And I was in like this deep depression the entire time. And
did you know why, or you figured it out later?
I kind of figured it out later. Being around his family without him was really difficult. So I think it was a combination. I mean, I love them, but it was a combination of being around his family without him and being in this place that we used to vacation year after year. So then after that, I kind of was like, all right, I got to just pick some places that I've never been and started.
I do think it's easier.
It was way easier for me.
I was not. I'm so glad you brought that up because I was expecting it when we went back to California, and I was prepared for that. But when I went to New York, a friend of mine had invited me to meet her in New York. She was there on business, and I could just stay with her and stuff. And so I took her up on it. And when I got there, I was not prepared. And we lived in Connecticut. So I think if I had been going to Connecticut, I would be like, okay, I might need to prepare myself for this.
Yeah.
But when I walked down the street in New York, literally, it was one of those moments where the tears are just falling. I'm not even making a sound. I'm not even making the cry face. It's just literal waterfall because I was in this city without him. It took me to my knees,
I don't
honestly.
know that you can be. Like Keira said, when we went to Germany, Ryder was just turned 7. It was their first trip together to go see his family over there. And we got over there, we visited with them, and then we left. Well, we waited at the airport for 5 hours and realized the captain came out and he said, unfortunately, I've timed out. So they made us go to a hotel. Well, my father-in-law, who was alive at the time, doesn't speak very good English, and he doesn't drive into the city.
Right.
He lives on the outskirts of Hamburg. So Ryder and I were sent to a hotel in like the red light district of Hamburg. It just felt scary. And I had this 7-year-old child with me, and there was no restaurant open at the time. So we had to go out into the city to go get food. And we're screaming American. And don't forget 9/11, Al-Qaeda. Where were they all stationed? Hamburg. All that was going through my mind. I know trauma, everything is, I'm sure Al-Qaeda is coming to get us. I'm sure that we have Americans stamped on our head. You make everything so much worse than it has to be. But that's how the brain works when you've been traumatized. Everything's dire.
It creates this fight or flight response in situations where there doesn't need to be one.
The calm one was Oliver. So that was the problem with him gone. And then it ramped up to the nth degree. And it was a miserable trip. And my poor son, he just saw me come undone. I was like, here I am in a country.
That was only like a year after, right?
It wasn't even a year. and you're in a foreign country and I don't speak the language well. And, Americans, I don't know that they love us. Right. So, and I didn't have my husband as the German with me to kind of bridge that.
I feel like you and Ryder look German, though. I feel like if you hadn't maybe opened your mouth, you would just blend it right in.
Meine Deutsch ist nicht
You
gut.
guys are blondie blondes.
I guess my advice would be, if you're going to go back to those places, and for me, I want to go back to those places because I want to take my kids to those places.
Of course.
Like going to London. I knew this was a trip that had been planned in my head before Hunter died. We were going to do that together with the kids at some point.
Yeah.
And I was really nervous about doing it alone. So I was going to tag along with another family member and her family so that I could do this with someone. And then it just ended up where Hunter's brother was wanting to take the kids over for his 50th, and it just worked out. So I had Hunter's brother with me. And I was prepared. But sometimes I'll go to the LA airport where we lived. It's just the airport. But sometimes I get very teary in the airport because when we would travel, that's the airport that we would be going out of, or we would be picking him up from the airport after a business trip. It was a weird connection to him.
You never know what's going to trigger. I think
really
that's
don't.
the problem, like with trauma and grief. I also have the same. Frank and I lived in New York City. We actually lived in the West Village during 9/11. I used to go back to see friends and family, and I would avoid the street that we lived on. I wouldn't go. And I remember my mom saying, you haven't taken the kids by your apartment, or, Aislinn lived there. And I just couldn't even go on the block for a really, really long time. I think these things just take time. I think you just have to give yourself the grace to tackle it when you're ready. Definitely for me, New York has always been a seriously difficult place.
I can imagine that. Did you
I
go
love
back to
that
San
place,
Francisco at all?
Yeah, mine is San Francisco. And the first time I went back was, 4 months maybe after he died. And I went back for my friend's birthday, and I got off the plane. And it was like, I remember when we moved, we sat in that same area of the airport. I was pregnant with a 3-year-old with our cats.
Oh my God.
And it was like the same terminal. And I got off the plane and I was like, just started crying.
But I will say, the more I do it, the less painful. I'll get a little twinge. Like, that's the one thing, the memories that I have of Hunter and I as a couple in Austin are college memories. For some reason, those don't make me sad. I don't have a lot of triggers in the city.
This is a funny story. I was going to head to LA this summer just for, I usually take a week or something and go. And I love to stay at the Lowe's, Santa Monica, because it's right there at the ocean. And that's where Oliver and I used to stay. So I've gotten through that, obviously, because I stay there all the time. But the first couple of times was terrible. Well, I looked it up. It's no longer.
Oh, they got rid of it?
The place that we went?
Yes, another company bought it. You and I stayed there. We went to Will and Grace.
Fun. But I remember loving that hotel, and we sat out at the fire pit. And didn't I passed out on the pool recliner in the middle of the day? And we were like, this woman is tired. Just getting out of town for me, like with travel, getting out of town is so much work. With the kids and the dogs, I used to hassle Frank about it because we would go on vacation and I would pack myself and all 3 children.
Of course.
I think we fought about it once. I was like, because I was frustrated. We were getting ready to go on a trip, and I was like, all you have to do is pack your little man bag. Like, you don't have to do anything else. It's just your dude stuff and like your little job kit. And I was just like, you're like, and it became a joke.
Last week, my boys went up to see my mom and my sister. And I'm like, pack yourself, get ready, get home. And I was like, why is Zach's suitcase here? And he texted me and he said, I forgot my clothes, but I remembered everything else.
That is so cute.
That is hilarious.
I let go. I let him pack on his own now.
Well, and I think now that we have to travel alone. Yeah, you have to. I think what we're kind of demonstrating here is letting go, not just of expectations, but depending on the age of your kid, let them handle their stuff. I forgot a bra. I was only in charge of my own packing this time, and I didn't bring any bras.
Very
I was
European.
very European in a saggy sort of way. But who cares? Like, who cares? Yeah. So letting go of all those expectations and letting yourself relax. That was the other thing that I'm hearing from us, like whether it be falling asleep. Now, it depends on the age of your kids. But maybe when you're thinking about travel as a widow, you find a way to give yourself a little bit of time alone, whether it be putting the kids in the hotel camp, or if you're staying with friends, asking them to give you a half a day or something. If you're with your family, it's not a vacation, it's a trip. You're on a trip.
Exactly.
And when you don't have your
camps
kids.
for my youngest, like we would do Telluride, and then she couldn't handle like some of the harder hikes that the bigger kids could. And so I would do like a little day camp for her. And then I would have some time with the big kids. It's all about sort of finding balance and figuring out what works for you and your kids and your family, and having other families along really helps. Because
all inclusives.
The big kids really do look out for the little kids because they weren't siblings. That's another tip that I would just share that really helped with me.
We're throwing out some really amazing destinations, but it can be something like going and visiting your the grandparents or cousins
or a staycation.
Especially in the beginning, I felt, and I think we've talked about this before, the need to get away.
Escape.
I didn't want to be home. In my mind, I was like, I'm going to honor Hunter's birthday by going somewhere, or I'm going to honor our anniversary by taking us somewhere. And if you have the means to do something like that, however big or small the trip is, I think it's really important. It first of all created a little family unit when your unit was disrupted. And then it gives everybody a chance to kind of get out of that grief.
It's true. I did some staycations the first year.
They do Resort Pass, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
$35, you can go to a myriad of great hotels.
We need to do that.
I do think it gets easier as they get older. For me, if I let go of wanting them to be as excited about everything as I am. Sometimes they just wanted to sleep in.
They love the hotel room.
I know.
They
get
do.
frustrated when they want to sleep in because I'll be like, we're in Barcelona. We need to get out and see the sights.
Yeah, 100%.
But it's definitely easier by contrast. So we every year would go visit friends in Martha's Vineyard. There was this one year, my best friend rented a house and invited us. And this trip ended up being, we had gotten this therapy dog too, that the kids insisted on bringing the therapy dog. So I'm like, okay. After the accident, my kids were grieving. A sweet friend was like, we have to get you this dog. I don't know if any of y'all have ever been to Martha's Vineyard, but
it's not easy to get to.
It is like planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah.
We had the dog with us. So she flew on the plane with us because she was supposed to, she had papers and she was allowed to be on the plane. And so I'm like, oh, this will be great. She will sit with the kids. Particularly my son was really close with her. That dog sat on me.
So it didn't have to be in a carrier? It was on, he was...
No, she was out of we had the vest and everything, therapy vest. That dog sat on me the entire way. Then we get there, I have to rent a minivan, drive to the vineyard, which is like 6 or 7 hours. And then you get on the ferry with the car. I mean, it is a lot. And that year I was sick. I had just a raging cold or something. And so I'm driving with the kids and the dog, and my nose is just running, and I can barely see the road. And, that's just one of many adventures. We got there okay. But, and then, so we get to the vineyard, we do the whole thing, and the dogs got skunked.
No.
Let's just say the dog has never traveled since. That was her one and only.
That's a toddler on the trip with you.
That was her one and only trip.
No, thank you.
With us.
Kudos to you.
But again, I was like, the
it.
kids have to have their therapy dog with. And I mean, after that, I was like, she's staying home.
You're going to need therapy after taking that dog.
And those things are so stressful just anyway. But then when you're dealing with it alone, looking back, was it good that you took all of those trips and that they were stressful, or?
And it's always worth it once you're there. I think it's because I like to go.
Yeah.
One kind of nightmare trip we had, my sister and brother-in-law were like, come see us. They were in Florida, and there's a room for you, and it was so nice, and spontaneously, let's go. And we flew to Dallas, and our flight got canceled. So we had to spend the night in Dallas. You know, it's late, and we had checked our bags. That's why I don't check bags anymore. It was worth it. Once we got there, we were at the beach, but it was hard, you know, doing it as a single parent.
You don't want to take the path of least resistance, though, so I don't look back on any of it and regret it. I think the only thing I tell myself is, like what Ryder said, just enjoy it more. And that's just kind of how we do, I think, when tragedy strikes, and especially in the first years. I wanted everything to look the same. Yeah. I mean, even back to, I remember right after Oliver died, he used to brush his teeth with Ryder. And Ryder goes, I don't have to do it now because he's not here. And he threw the toothbrush. And I said, oh, but you do. And I gave it to him, and we did it together. And then from then on, I said, I think that's what triggered me to, everything had to be the same.
And you have to adapt. I mean, the reason we were still going to the vineyard is because the kids loved it. Our dear friends were there with us, and Thomas actually wrote about that in one of his college essays, you know, being kind of a constant in his life. Also, they took my kids after the accident. When Karis and I were still in the hospital, they took my kids to the vineyard, my big kids. And so I think that was a place for comfort. But yeah, I mean, I pushed through so many difficult journeys getting there from Austin. I mean, because I just wanted to have that consistency for my kids, for sure. It's always worth it when you get there. The vineyard's really pretty.
Here's a question for you guys. Several years after Hunter died, I took them to Belize, and that was a nightmare. That was, it was terrible. We only stayed like 2 days.
I believe it.
A friend of mine had a hotel on one of the keys, and he had offered it up, and he was like, you just have to get here, and then everything is taken care of. And that sounded really great. Yeah. It was terrible. But if you saw my Instagram, you would think we would have been having an amazing time.
Well, London, the same. I thought it looked amazing.
No, London was good. It was Paris where the wheels fell off.
It was France where things fell apart.
In Belize, when I got off the flight, they asked me where the husband was, where the father was. He's dead. And they were like, prove it. Have y'all had those experiences? Did you know that you needed the death certificate to travel?
When we got to Germany, that crossed my mind. I started panicking.
I had a Xerox for a long time in my wallet.
Xerox? Who says Xerox?
Oh my gosh, I know, that makes me sound so old.
That's like when
maybe I am your grandma's widow.
You are.
I don't remember.
I had a copy in my wallet for a long time because I needed it for almost everything that was
no one told me that
during
and
that
I
time.
had traveled.
I don't remember. We went to Mexico like a summer after.
I was never.
I don't remember, but maybe I did have it.
I was totally taken off guard. It's during COVID. We had this long flight. It was stressful with like the COVID test because remember you had to take it 3 days prior, and we're literally on our way to the airport, and I'm still waiting for the test results. Totally stressed, and then I'm with 3 teens. One of them really hated me at the time.
They're worried you're going to escape with the kids.
They think that you're going to, and it does happen. I mean, I've seen the Lifetime movies.
Well, coming back from Hamburg is where I really thought about it because I'm the American taking a dual citizen back to the U.S. and he's not with me. This is weird probably to you guys, but I had photocopied almost all like serious documents because I have a tendency to lose
photocopied or
Xerox.
Yeah.
I mean, did you Xerox it though?
I took a photo on my iPhone instead of my flip phone. But I have all of that, Social Security cards, all of that on.
So that's a good tip. So that's a great tip because I am standing in Belize, scrolling through emails, trying to find, this was 2020, and he died in 2017. I'm wearing a mask. I'm crying, of course, trying to find proof. I think the lady just felt sorry for me. I finally found something and just kind of showed it.
They act so badly. Do you really
I was
think
like,
that
please,
I'm trying
I
to
don't
take
want
these
them.
kids?
Leave them here.
Start acting up, kids.
I
Start acting up.
know.
But he's stealing teenagers.
Right.
No.
Just,
we're trying
just
to
the
leave
cute
them.
ones.
But I do like what you said, Lacey. Have a picture of it, and you can just keep it on. Make an album. on your
Yeah.
photo
I have
section.
I have the medical card, and I don't have the death
Medical
certificate.
card.
You know, driver's
Insurance?
license.
Health
Insurance
insurance?
card,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
health insurance.
Driver's license good because
Yeah.
if you forget to go, if you go to the airport, like one of my friends, her son went to the airport and didn't have his ID, and they took it.
Photo.
They took the photo copy of that, which
surprises me.
it does me too. But hey, that's what she said happened.
My
Thank
son is in
Good to
Italy
know.
right now, and I printed out like 10 copies of the passport, the
that's a good
driver's
idea.
license, the insurance card, everything. And I just said, stick it in. He's got like a backpack. And I'm like, just stick a copy in different areas and different things, and
Always scary.
in your shorts and in your, I don't
need
know,
to
in
talk
your,
about that
in your underwear.
offline.
And I just like have a million different copies and on your phone.
That's
So
great.
he was
All
like,
right.
Mom, I'm like,
So let's kind of wrap it up.
words of wisdom for
Again,
travel.
with the wrap it up and
Roll with
condom
it.
talking. Yeah, what do we want to end with that people carry with them, Keira?
Just roll with it. I mean, everything's not going to go according to plan. There's going to be delayed or canceled trains, or maybe something gets lost. You gotta
Limit
think
your
on your feet.
expectations.
Yeah, limit your expectations, roll with it, photocopy or Xerox, or fax it to yourself.
Yeah. Get out your BlackBerry.
Important
Make some
documents.
notes.
Yeah, and be aware you will probably be triggered. There will be moments on the trip where you feel the grief, whether it's because you're feeling very alone or you're appreciating what you're doing and you wish that your partner was with you.
Or you see those families on the beach in Florida, Rosemary Beach or something, and their
Yes.
whole families are getting their photos taken. And
Yeah.
you're
All
like,
in white.
well,
They're all in
We had one in the
matching.
background.
me and my son over here like doing a selfie. So, you know.
Yeah, and remember to give yourself a little bit of time to have a vacation on this trip, whether it be a bottle of wine out on the patio or in the bathtub, or leaving the kids
Or a
if they're
street
old
party.
enough. Or a
Recruit your
street
friends.
party.
Recruit your people.
And it doesn't have to be the trip of a lifetime. It can be a night at the local hotel so that you can have the pool. So that because it is on us now to be the entertainer, to be the protector, the provider, all of it. So it's nice if you can just take a break and swim in the pool,
Yeah.
drink some wine.
It's okay to keep it simple.
And on
That's
that
right.
note, let's do a resort pass soon.
Yes, let's do it.